backyard. I stepped outside and I heard tons of running around. And then I heard some strange sounds I've never heard in my entire life. Like, I don't know what it was. Let's see what's out here. Did someone follow me home? Who's out here? Biggies, is that you? Ho, 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 ho. Okay, I'm gonna walk down there and see what it is. What's back here? I hear something in there. Who's back here? I hear you. What made that noise? I've never heard a noise like that before. Don't be scared. It's just me. Whatever it is moving further back as I move up. That was a strange sound.
Hi, I'm Mike Harrell, and it's my great pleasure today to be doing an interview with Ginger Lockwood. And I heard about her. I think I listened to this really interesting interview she did on one of the big channels, and I thought, wow, she's really amazing. And then when I did that interview with Sam, he was like, you know, on the background, she said, "Oh, you gotta get in touch with Ginger. I've seen your name around, so." I'm really, and the depth of experience that you have is like phenomenal. Didn't you say you were like on like 8 podcasts in this last year, and you got an upcoming event that you're going to be one of the speakers at? It's like a big event in Georgia, so that's coming up.
I'm very excited about that. There's going to be so many great speakers that have so much Bigfoot experience, more than me. And I mean, like Arla, she's known them since she was 6 years old, and she's lived with them and had interactions on a continuous basis. And same with Tom Cantrell. He's just had interactions with them his whole life and still on a continuous basis. And then there's Bob Gimlin, and you know, he doesn't even need an introduction. Everybody knows about Patty. This is the Bigfoot conference we're talking about.
Yeah, this is it right here. It's the International Society for Primal People, the 4th International Conference on Bigfoot. It's going to be just 40, 50 miles south of Atlanta in Douglasville, Georgia. So a lot of cool things coming up.
Yes, David Baraka will be there, that runs the Bigfoot Expedition Museum with Melinda, and he will be talking.
Let me see if I got their picture. Well, that's not with Melinda. I think that's somebody else. I thought I had their picture. I don't know if I do or not.
Melinda is his wife. On the pictures you have, it just shows a picture of David.
Oh, okay. All right.
On that group.
Anyway, it's big fun. I mean,
yes.
you know, like I was saying to you earlier, I feel Sasquatch and you feel Sasquatch, and I was feeling like the Sasquatch have been around. It's like the elders are around. So that's kind of a good feeling.
I did ask the Bigfoot to speak through me so that I honor them when I do these podcasts.
Yeah, I feel the same. You know, to me, it's all about the woo. You know, consciousness is the feeling of energy, and everything has a feeling to it. You know, so you try to stay in your heart, stay in your feelings. Then,
Yes.
you
Sam,
know,
Sam has been invited to speak at the conference too, since you mentioned his name. Um, we're trying to get a campfire place reserved so that we can actually have some experience in the woods for everybody. And we want to have Sam as a speaker around the campfire in the woods.
oh, he'd be good at that. You know, his Sasquatch, they've been really giving him some great spiritual energy. That one time when he was talking
Oh,
about
yes.
they did this thing where they tapped on top of the head and his whole body flushed with energy. Well, that's what the gurus in India do. It's called Shaktipat, where they touch you and they just awaken your energy. And
Cool.
it's not like a sledgehammer, but it's definitely, you can feel it, and then it changes you. And then the next time, like I guess it was later on that year or another year later, he was in his woods down here in Georgia. He got surrounded by three of them, and they just kind of gave him a love vibe, just kind of let him soak that in. And, you know, that guy's not the same anymore, you know?
We used to go hiking together a lot on the weekends. Sam and my husband and I, and sometimes Keith Bearden would join us, and he's a speaker at the conference also, and has wrote a book on the Bigfoot action in this area. And you know, these are all people with spiritual feelings towards Bigfoot, so we all had like minds walking in. But one of my best experiences was with Sam. um, we were sitting on a trail, all the four of us, and Keith said, "My teacher, my teacher is coming up, and he has a Bigfoot teacher." And and I believe Sam does now too. But so, anyways, we all looked and we saw some little green eyes shine, and I just felt like that wasn't his teacher. And being a psychic, I was following my intuition and all. So I got up and I walked down the trail a little. And all of a sudden, there was a Bigfoot there with huge eye shine flaring out. I mean, it was the biggest I've seen to this day. It was just, and it was pulsating at me. It was like, you know, started at his eye and went out bigger like that towards me and would come back and forth, back and forth. And it had this white ring around it that was bright white. And then it was all light white inside there. And it just was go woof, woof, whoosh at me and pulsating. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. So I walked back down the trail and I was like, you guys, you got to come see this Bigfoot here. And they're like, well, Ginger, we can see it. You know, they thought I was seeing the same one they were. And I was like, no, no. So I couldn't get anybody to believe me. So I went back down the trail and the Bigfoot was still there. And it was just like whoosh, whoosh right at me. So I didn't know what to do. I started trying to copy it, like if I could project the eye shine back out too. So I'm like trying to project it back out at my eyes and pulsate it back at him. And it was funny, and we were doing it in sync, like we were connecting with each other. And I guess Sam saw what we were doing because he came walking down the trail and he got up right to the right of me. Sometimes you have to be right in the direct line of sight to see him. And he went, wow.
Did,
I
did,
mean, it
uh,
was eye shine coming out.
did you hear when I was talking to Sam about what eye shine actually is?
What was that? I'm
Did
sorry.
you hear when I was interviewing Sam, I explained what eye shine actually is?
Now, the energy life force
It is
within
the
us.
life force inside you. So it's the God light, you know, like when Jesus said, when thine eyes would be single, your whole being will be filled with light. That is the
Mhm.
light of life. That is the light of God. So when you see the eye shine like that, that's like looking right into the eye of God. You know what I'm saying? That's like
It was
so
amazing.
profound. So that's so profound. So I don't know what.
It was amazing. And then my husband came up eventually and got up on the left side of me and he goes, wow. And it was like, I tried to tell you guys, you know. So we all stood there and watched it for a while, and it would turn its head and it would look at Keith and, you know, Paul before Paul had joined in. And when it did, we could see its other eye too. And it wasn't flared out. We wonder sometimes why when we get eye shine videos, it's just showing one eye. Well, sometimes the other one isn't flared out and they don't have the eye shine flaring out. It was just almond shaped, just like my eye. And it was just pure bright white light inside it. And we
Amazing.
couldn't see it when it was looking straight on because the other one was overshadowing it because it was so big coming out. But when it would turn its head and look at Keith and Paul, then Sam and I could see the other eye. I remember him saying, "Is that the other eye we're seeing now?" And I was like, "Yep." And he said, "Are we seeing its facial features?" And I went, "Yep," because the light was lighting up its face, even though it was nighttime. And then my husband came up, went wow too, and he had started going, "Come, come." And I guess the Bigfoot didn't like that. It turned around and started to leave. And you could see because the eye shine was so huge. When it turned, it lit up all the bushes around it, like a flashlight would. And Sam went, "Oh, it's leaving." And then I felt bad. So I just kind of whispered softly. I went, "Please don't go." And I didn't think it would hear me or anything or even care or listen. And it whipped around real fast. They moved so fast. And you could just see it whip around. And it started flat, pulsating. It shined back at us again. And Sam goes, "Oh my God, it heard you and turned around and came back." And so then my mouth is dropped. So that was a really cool experience. So I just whispered that. I don't even know how it heard me. And but I guess because it came from my heart, it turned around,
Oh
Fred, and
yeah,
came back.
it felt the feeling. It felt what you were feeling, like that. And
Uh-huh.
look, what he was doing was he was dousing you guys with this light energy, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
to him that's like holy stuff. He knows what he was doing. So when people were like started to play with it, he would just like walk away. But when you came back from your heart, he responded because that's what he was there for. He was there
Yeah,
to show your
exactly.
heart tonight.
Exactly right. I
Beautiful.
think exactly
What
right.
an amazing experience.
Experience this from our heart, connecting to him. Exactly right. And when that was broken, he was ready to leave. And when that came back, he came back. Yep. Yep.
What a teaching. The whole thing was a teaching.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's one I'll never forget. It was a really amazing experience.
Wow. Well, okay, let's get back to basics.
Okay.
I'm really glad you're saying this because you're going to be a speaker at this event, and I was thinking, well, maybe she's going to hold back and sandbag. So no, don't sandbag. Just let everybody know what the real deal is here.
Everybody always sees my structure pictures and they're like, "Have you ever had any encounters?" And it's like, "Yep, me."
So anyway, let's go back to the beginning of your last 5 incarnations with Sasquatch, and then how you got hooked up in this lifetime.
Okay. So where do you want me to start?
Start in the beginning where you first started knowing that there
Okay.
was Sasquatch
Well,
around.
okay. What happened is I didn't believe in Bigfoot or anything really much. I had got involved, just in worldly stuff. And one night, all of a sudden, I heard at 2:30 a.m. these really, really loud howls in my backyard. It was just sounded like it was through a megaphone. I had just broke my leg 3 nights before, and I was sitting there fretting and worrying how I was going to take care of myself because my husband had to go to work the next morning, and I couldn't walk on my leg at all. It was broke all the way through, and it's funny because I hear a lot of people have their first encounters when they're hurting or been hurt from something. And it really helped me a lot that the Bigfoot came to my yard during this time. But I looked up the sound since then, and it's called the Ohio howl, although I call it the siren howl because it sounds kind of like a siren, like a police siren. It was like, I can't duplicate it exactly, but it's like, oh, like that. Oh, it goes up.
Let me put this in a time. Like what state were you in, and like what year was it, more or less? How long ago?
This is approximately 5 years ago now. It was in April and 2014. So it's been a little over 5 years now. And I live in Northwest Georgia, west of Atlanta. And we're actually called Metro Atlanta. And I live in the middle of a subdivision. So you wouldn't think that Bigfoot would come to my yard because I am completely surrounded by homes. Now, in Georgia, lots of times they do keep up a little tree line in our backyard where they don't touch the trees. They just mow down all the trees in the front of the yard, you know, and all. So we have this little tree line that runs in the back of our yards here. And we do have swamps and lakes and woods surrounding us, but I'm actually in the middle of a subdivision. And there is a really crowded city 10 minutes down the road, you know, but so you wouldn't think that they would come here. And I was just sitting here one night, you know, on my iPad playing, and my cat is in the family room, and I just hear these really loud, you know, howls or moaning, and I'm just like, what the heck is that? I'd never heard anything like that in my life. And it was going on, and it was so loud, I thought that it would wake up my husband, and he had to go to work in the next morning. So I got on my crutches, and you know, I turned on the porch light, and I was trying to be loud because I thought, okay, this has got to be some kind of animal or something, and maybe I can scare it away. So I went out there all loud and clumsily on my crutches, and turned on the porch light, and it just kept howling, oh, like that. And then one down the road started answering it. And it would do it, and then the one in my yard would do it. Then it would do it, and then the one in my yard would do it. So now it was clear that there were two beings communicating with each other. And the one in my yard, I mean, it sounded like I had a police car right in my backyard. It was that loud, the siren sound. Although it didn't sound exactly like a siren. I was just trying to figure out what it sounded closest to at the time, because I was trying to figure out why all my neighbors' lights weren't coming on, and why everybody wasn't running out in their backyard, because it was that loud and it was that strange and unusual sounding. And the only thing I could figure out
it's rumored that they have the ability to do things with sound where only you could hear it. Maybe other people could hear it on a different level, but only you can hear it, like it was like meant for you, you know?
I keep hearing that. And so maybe that's what happened. You know, that's why I was trying to think, what does this sound like? Why are people not responding? And I thought maybe people think there's a police car in the neighborhood, or it's in their dreams because it's at 2:30 in the morning. But maybe you're right, because so many have said that to me that maybe only I could hear it. But it was extremely, extremely loud. And my cat, as soon as it started up, she got on her belly, and we have a big family room, and she crawled all the way across down the basement stairs on her belly. She never got up from her belly and went and hid in the basement. And she's never, ever done that before. She knew what that was out there. And so I came inside, and I got my iPad, and I was going to try to record it. I had never recorded anything, and I was new to iPads, so it took me a while to figure it out. So I got back out there, and the howling was still going on. I mean, it seemed like it was going on for like 15 minutes or so. And as soon as I hit the record button, it stopped completely. It didn't start back.
People say they don't believe in the woo. That's 100% woo.
And, you know, here I knew nothing about Bigfoot and didn't even believe in him. But even that was obvious to me. I was like, okay, somehow they knew I was going to hit record. You know? I mean, And they say there are no coincidences. And after that, they just kept coming and coming back to the yard. It's like they were here almost every night. And I was having almost nightly encounters. And, you know, I didn't even know what they were. I was saying out loud to them, "What are you?" You know? That's how it all got started, was that night. I would go out on my porch and sit outside, because my porch, my screen porch, is like right up against the wood line, but it's about maybe 10 to 13 feet off the ground. And I would just go sit down outside, and all of a sudden I would hear, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh." And it was one of them trying to talk to me out loud. And I guess it's a juvenile. I heard the juveniles can make like monkey sounds sometimes. And here I didn't know anything about them. So I thought, oh, he's some kind of ape or something, because they sounded like that. And I'd go out and sit out on my porch again the next night, and I'd hear something right at the wood line go, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh," at me again. I'm like, what the, you know, what the heck is that? And, you know, I knew it was them talking to me. My husband was watching Bigfoot shows, so he had told me, "Ginger, you know, this is Bigfoot you're dealing with." And he really didn't know much about him. He was just watching that one that was real popular, Finding Bigfoot, back then. But you know, he had told me they like apples, and I had a broke leg, and I couldn't go down and get the Bigfoot or go down the deck stairs and see them. And I was stuck upstairs for a while. So he had got some apples, and I would go out on my deck and throw apples out into the woods for them. Well, one night when I threw one, it sounded like I must have hit one or something. I don't know. I mean, one, it sounded very angry. It was like, you know, like that. And my husband goes, "You're being chewed out." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And, you know, at least that's the way we interpreted it, you know. And then all of a sudden it sounded like one or three of them just got up and took off and ran. I didn't know if I hit a juvenile on the head with an apple or what. I was so afraid I would lose them, because I was already starting to fall in love with them. And they came back 3 days later. I started apologizing out loud immediately. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. I'm sorry. And I don't know that's what happened. That's just what we were thinking at the time. And they did come back 3 days later. You know, I've made many mistakes with them, and they are very forgiving.
Well, you said something funny, which I think is really important. You said, "I fell in love with them," and it's like the people who are connected to Sasquatch, there is this love there. There's like family. There's like specialness, sacredness, or reverence. You know, and that's a real deal. That's a real deal for the people who are on. I guess almost everybody, because even the people who just are the ape only people, they have respect for them too.
And I can actually understand that, because there was a time, you know, when they first came, where I was going through the phases. Are you an ape or what? You know, because of what I would experience with them. But then it didn't make sense that they would know when I could hit record. And, you know, and then other things started happening where I figured out they weren't any kind of ape or anything. And they were way more intelligent than us. I finally had got where I could walk down the steps, and I had started using peanuts to throw out in the woods, because I figured if I hit something over the head with it, then it wouldn't hurt it. You know, the raw peanuts in a shell. And I got to unsalt it so it would be healthier for the Bigfoot, because I had already cared about them. And this is about maybe I'm thinking about 6 weeks after they came, because that would be about the time I could probably start walking in the woods again from the broke leg. I had a bag of raw peanuts in my hand. And it's just a tiny little area of woods in my backyard. But two big, huge trails appeared right away when they came. I mean, huge trails, not a deer-sized trail. And, so I started walking down one of the trails. that they had made in my wood line. And all of a sudden, there's two Bigfoot standing right in front of me in arm's length. I guess they were already there because I didn't hear them come up. I don't know if I was looking down at the ground, because all of a sudden they were just there standing in front of me. And one of them was about my height, and the other one was about a head taller. And one was standing directly behind the other one, like it was up against it, protecting it, but it was a little to the side. And it was nighttime, but I live in the middle of a subdivision, so there were street lights and house lights and everything. So they looked kind of like silhouetted, you know, in the light, in the night. There was a big light right behind them from the storage shed in the yard behind us. So I could see the whole outline and frame of their bodies. And they seemed like they were black to me, because I couldn't see any other color and it was dark. But they had this green eye shine coming out of them, and it was about this big coming out of both their eyes from both Bigfoot. And, you know, I've been told since that they scan you. I think they were scanning me, because I just went, wow, really loud. And there was no fear, which is the weirdest thing, because I knew nothing about Bigfoot. And it seems like the natural reaction to come across something that you've never seen before is that you would be scared, you know? And there wasn't any fear. All I felt was total peace. I just stood there, and they just kept staring at me with their bright green eyes, and I just kept staring back at their eyes. I was totally infatuated by the beauty. They were just the bright green, like you see in an LED light. It was that beautiful, and I was just mesmerized. I was like, wow. And it seemed like a wow had gone by. And then finally, I just thought, okay, you know, I'm standing here in front of two Bigfoot, maybe I ought to, you know, walk away. And, you know, and they were right there in arm's length of me. I could have reached out and touched them. And so I stuck my hand down in the bag of peanuts, and I said, do you want some peanuts? And this sounds so surreal, I know. And I held out my hand with the peanuts on it, and they didn't do anything. They just kept staring at me with that bright green, fluorescent green eye shine. And there was still no fear present at all. I mean, it was just peace. And they didn't say anything. So I said, okay, I'm going to sit the peanuts on the ground, and then I'm going to walk away. So I set the peanuts on the ground, and then I turned my back to them, and I walked away. And I just came in the house, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And there really is Bigfoot in my yard. You know, I was having them talk to me out loud, and I'd heard howls, and I was hearing the bipedal steps at night and wood knocking and stuff like that, but I hadn't seen them yet. And so that just really nailed it in. And when I saw them, they were standing up just like you and me. And there is no animal like that in the entire world, you know. And the peace I just felt always. I remember asking Tom Cantrell so many times, why is it I didn't feel fear? I asked him specifically, I said, can they project peace? And he said, yes. And I do believe that's what happened that night.
Well, that's a really wonderful story, and it's chock full of like teachings for everybody, because you know that no fear thing, and then the scanning. What I call that is tagging. If they can get within 4 or 5 feet of you, or maybe even more, they can look at your whole life, and it's sort of like they can actually see a slideshow of from your birth, or maybe even other lifetimes, but for sure from your birth to now and to your death. They see your whole life scan, and they do that because they want to know who you are, because they're seriously consider making you like a part of their world, part of their family, and they want to know, not just assume or guess. They want to know who you are. So that's when the people, feel like a Sasquatch is around their tent for like about a half hour or something, and just walks around the tent, or just touches their tent. That's what they're doing. They're scanning. But also there's this tagging thing that they can do where they reach out. Like when you first heard those howls the very first night, there was like a kind of tagging going on, and from then on, you're recognized by them as somebody who's been affected. You know what I mean? And I think everybody's been tagged. All the researchers. There's no way that any of these guys who are researchers are doing research unless they were tagged, and they don't
They
understand it. They don't
right.
understand it, but they're out there
Right.
doing research, spending their money. Sometimes divorce their wives because they're fanatics about going out in the woods, and they want to, you know, they have it in their head. It's, oh, it's about finding Bigfoot and stuff like that. But really, it's just a pull. You know, they're being
Oh,
pulled to
yes,
do
there is
that.
a pull. I get that pull sometimes. When I haven't been in the woods for a while, I can feel them pull at me.
The other thing I wanted to kind of go to backtrack with, since we're not going in a linear direction, I wanted to backtrack with it. You said that you were psychic. And I think this is a really important point for people to know. And for sure, the researchers who are out there stomping around the woods, if they don't have a psychic on their team, they are just out of the water. You know, the best people who are doing paranormal investigations and ghost hunters, they always have a psychic in their back pocket, so they can say, "Oh yeah, this was grandmother, you know, White.
A medium that
She
can
did
connect
that, she
to
did this,
spirit.
and she lived there,
Yes.
and this is what she's." You know what I mean? And then they look it all up and find out that it's true. Well, Sasquatch people need psychics on their team too, though the researchers do. So go back to like and tell me a little bit of the story about, you know, your life as psychic. Did you have experiences with ghosts, or did you have experience with ET people, or any of those kind of beings?
Well, yeah, I actually think everybody in the entire world is psychic. We just don't know it because we all astral project in our sleep, and that's a psychic ability right there. And our subconscious knows how. So we would practice it in our daylight awake hours. We could learn how because we already know how. So, you know, it's just a matter of us opening and awakening our abilities, which is what the Bigfoot are doing to many. But I was I knew when I was a kid that I had the abilities, and I had never forgotten that I did. I at times would forget because I had stopped using them. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. We're so open as kids to these abilities. Like I have a friend that she said her granddaughter thinks that she can talk to the wind and tell the wind to stop, and it would stop. And you know, she demonstrated it, and it did. And I do believe that as kids, we are so in touch with these things, and it's adults though that tell us, you know, that's just in our head and in our mind, so we stop using it. But I do believe that we all have the abilities to do these things. And my father, though, believed in it. So he never closed my mind to it. I did have problems with a church organization closing my mind to it, though. But no, I don't want to speak bad of any church, though, or any organization. It was just this one. And but he had never discouraged me from using them. When I was a kid, like I remember my mom picking me up when I was 6 years old at school, and we were driving down the road, and of course I couldn't even see the street. I'm real small and little, and I'm sitting in the back seat, and I see a flat tire on the road. And not visually, I just in my mind, because I couldn't see over the seats and then through the window. And I blurted out, "Mom, we're going to run over a flat tire." And we did right as I said that and got a flat tire. I mean, we're going to run over a nail, and we did right then and got a flat tire. And it just happened all the time. And to the point where, you know, my family would just get real quiet and look at me strange. You know? And so I mean, it would happen a lot. And I remember one time I was with all my relatives.
Just to be clear, that is psychic. That means you went forward in time, saw something that was going to actually happen, had enough time to report. This is like woo. And this is very common. All human beings, I believe, can do it. Because like I was saying, if you do this, that's psychic. Because you don't have enough nerves in your body to be able to do this. And then I stop it and start and stop and start. It's all psychic. So your mind has to project when to start and when to stop, so it happens simultaneously in real time. That's 100% psychic. Everything works on 100% psychic.
Yeah, I mean, we all are psychic and using it all the time. We just don't realize it. Like if we are thinking of a song in our head, and then we turn on the radio and then it's playing. That was your psychic, you know? You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
It was somebody calling and then they call. That was your psychic, you know? I mean, we just don't even realize it. But the more we pay attention to it, it's like a muscle. The stronger it will get. And the more we use it, the stronger it will get. Well, you know, my father had sat back and watched me for many years. He was a NASA engineer, and I didn't realize that he was so into it until I was 10 years old. One day I was sitting there watching a movie, and he walked in the room and he said, Ginger, I want you to come to the table so I can show you something. So I got up and I came to the family room table, and he said, for 3 years, I've been practicing telekinesis, you know, which is moving objects with your mind. And I had no idea. He never told me until I was 10 years old. And he said, I've been practicing it every day for 3 years, and I can finally do it. So he showed me how. He put a pencil on the table. It was like right in the middle of the pencil on the edge of the table so that it could pivot easily. And he closed his eyes, and he imagined the pencil in his mind, and he imagined it moving. And then he waved his hands over it, and it moved. And, you know, I'm a little kid, so I'm completely open to it. And I knew I already had abilities, so he told me to try it. So I did, and I was able to do it on the first try. And here was my father, had been practicing for 3 years, and he was like, I knew you could do it on the first try. So he started, you know, then helping me, encouraging me to do it. And I got where I could move a hairbrush and slide it across the table,
Wow.
you know, without touching it. And then I had stopped using it because religion had got to me, and my Southern Baptists in my area said that there is no such thing as psychic, that those are all demons of telekinesis, demons of ESP, and all that kind of stuff. And so I have felt like every time I tried to use it, I was doing something wrong and bad. So I had stopped trying. But the gifts kept coming out. You know, I couldn't help seeing things that were going to happen in the future and stuff like that. And like, I remember when I was 18 and I had some friends in my car and I was driving, I just turned onto the interstate all of a sudden. They said, Ginger, why did you turn onto the interstate? And then all of a sudden, the lady who asked that, her phone rang, and it was a friend who wanted us to come over, and I had to turn on the interstate to go there. And she just looked at me really weird, you know? And it was just happening all the time. And I was trying to make it hide and go away because people would look at me so strange, but it would never completely go away. And then the Bigfoot came to my yard and started doing things like that. And I saw them, and it made me want them back. It's like they made me remember who I was. It's like, Ginger, you used to have abilities, and you can do things too. Start using them. And that made me start searching to be able to use my psychic again and work it.
So do you feel, this is what I feel, but do you feel that the Sasquatch were more willing to come to you because you were psychic? You could tune into them on that level, and so they were easier for them to, because, like, you know, in the first year or two that you had them come right up to you face to face, and they came to you, and so there's a lot going on here, and psychic
I wasn't
abilities,
looking
open heart,
for
all
them, and I
all that
didn't
plays
believe
in.
them. I have questions so many times. Why did they come to my yard, you know, and do this? And I wonder if they are going to people and awakening them to get them to start using their psychic abilities again. Like maybe they knew I had the chance to be able to do that, and they wanted me to. It actually led me into healing work, and I actually went into shamanism because of it. Because of things that happened in my life after the Bigfoot came. So
Well, I'm not
maybe
surprised because some of my experiences, right? They've given me like all kind of understandings, and one of the understandings that they gave me was they showed me back through time, and they showed me all the shamans of the world. Well, the shamans, they go out for a vision quest, and they're just alone in the woods or alone on the side of a mountain, you know, and then they get these teachings, you know, they get these understandings, they have these visions, you know. And the same thing with the Enlightenment of India. You know, where's the story of the enlightenment of India? Is they go up into the Himalayas, and they find a cave, and they meditate in the cave, and they just are being you know, spiritual for days on end, and then they get their energy. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that the Sasquatch people were showing me that they have an influence in guiding the spiritual awakening for humanity, because they never forgot theirs. They never forgot their connection. So to
Right.
me, that's very real, because all the people that I know who are having these kind of spiritual encounters, they're shamans, they're healers, they're
Yeah.
storytellers, there's wisdom keepers, they're pipe carriers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
these people are not you know, just regular soccer moms.
Maybe they're coming to people's, you know, in psychic people's lives because they know that they have the ability to heal and help the world or something, and that they will, you know. I don't know, but
Well, I absolutely
and
feel like there's a bigger picture going on, because there's this thing's called the awakening. Well, that's happening across the board in all the countries, and there's this awakening going on. The ETs talk about it. They talk about how consciousness is rising, and they want to clear out all the old division programs and all that kind of stuff. So the ET people are doing it, and the Sasquatch people are doing it. And then there's the list of the interdimensional beings, the cat-headed people and the lion-headed people and the manted people, and all these kind of beings that are coming.
right.
And people are writing books about them, and my experience with this and that. And I know a guy who had a relationship for his whole life with a dragon. The dragon comes to him, and you know, they're writing books about all this stuff. So stuff is happening, you know, and I think the
It
Sasquatch
is.
is right in the middle of it.
And you know, the world used to be like that, where we were open to all those things, and we closed. So it's going full circle right now.
I think so.
You know, back in the olden days, you know, they used divination and all kinds of things to help out with people in lives, and was using natural herbs for healing and all, and using their psychic for lots of healing for people and for helping to help themselves and to help others. But you know, it just got stopped, and it's like things are going full circle again. Everybody's awakening and starting to use their abilities again. And you know, the Bigfoot are psychics, and they are superb psychics. So I'm sure it helps them if they can find a psychic to be able to interact with, because it's probably a little easier. You know, they're a little more open to things already.
Absolutely, you know, and they're written some books, you know, Kelly Lapsaritis and Kawani and Sunbow and those people. They're giving them books. When I read the books, it's like, oh, it's like the top of my head went. That's where it's at, you know, because when you hear something that's true, you know, and then they're talking about going back from the time of Lemuria and the time of Atlantis and all the kind of troubles, and we've been fighting and the same stuff. It's just like amazing. I mean, you know, they have the complete history of the United States, of not the United States, but the whole world, of the,
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. We're playing in a bigger game than we know. It's not just walking around in the woods and having adventures. There's a bigger game afoot.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot more to casting pranks and finding structures and glyphs, and yeah. The I mean, like when I'm in the woods, I speak telepathically to them because I know they're around and I know they can hear me, and I do when I'm at home too. You don't have to be in the woods, such as you do.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I don't go to the woods, but they leave me stick glyphs and throw rocks on my roof and everything. I'll give you an interesting story. This happened just a couple of days ago. My brother-in-law was Bill Haas from the Miami Serpentarium, and this guy, and I was thinking about him, and you know, he used to take snake venom, pure snake venom, but little tiny doses every day of his life. So the reason why, because uh, he would donate his blood to hospitals and stuff for when people get snake bite. So he had this immunity. So he did this for years and years and
Okay.
years, and he did it with a whole bunch of snakes, probably 25 or 30 different snakes, right? And I was thinking, that guy lived to be 100 years old. It was 99 and 11 months old, you know? And so,
Wow.
and taking this toxic stuff into his body, the most toxic stuff that you can put in your body, right?
Yeah.
And what does that tell you? It tells you that it's not your food, you know?
Right.
This guy was inspired. He was helping people. He was researching and trying to find things, diseases, right? So I was thinking of that. I was just laying in my bed thinking about it. And then the next, I guess the next day I went out down the street, I just went out for a little walk. And as I was walking back, I saw this stick. I thought I saw a snake. I thought this was a snake. Yeah. It wasn't a snake. It was a stick. I'll show you. Sure I got it right here.
That is so cool.
This is the, let me see if I can put it together.
See, they totally worked with you from your home, and they
Huh?
will do that. It's like when my leg was broke, they came to me.
Yeah. Okay, this is the stick, right? And I don't know if you can
Yeah.
see, but see, it looks a little
It
bit
looks
like
like
a,
a
looks a little bit
snake
like a snake, right?
head. That
And
totally
look
looks
how
like a
long it
snake
is,
head.
right? You see how long it is? That's
Yeah.
how long it is. And it looks like it looks like a snake. When it was on the street, it looked like a snake.
You
But
would glue that
then
together.
it's like it's like, well, how did they do that? And then if you look at it up here, right? If you look at it, this is the backside. See how the backside is? It's actually, I don't know if you can tell, but it's sanded smooth. What
I
they had
see
to
that.
do to make this snake was they took a vine or something, put it on the road, and they rubbed it back and forth with their foot so the bottom would sit completely flat, like if it was a dead snake on the road. And this happened. I mean, this kind of stuff happens to me like 2 or 3 times a week, something like that. And it was because I was thinking about my brother-in-law and the snake thing.
Mhm. See, that just shows how telepathically connected they are to us.
Completely
And
telepathically connected.
we were talking about getting tagged and scanned. I do believe that once you're tagged, they all know you because I had only had the Bigfoot experiences in my yard for a couple years. And then I met Arla and Tom and Jonathan and all of them. And, I got in their little Bigfoot group and they invited me to go camping with them. And I had never had a Bigfoot experience outside of my yard that I could remember at that time. And the first night I was there, 2 Bigfoot came running up to me the very first night. And it freaked me out because I'd never seen Bigfoot except in my yard. And then Sam told me about a place of his. And the first night I went there, I had a Bigfoot walking next to me about 6 feet away with its eye shine on. My husband and I were walking down the trail and it just turned dark. And he said, "Ginger, did you know you have a Bigfoot walking next to you?" And I turned around and I was like, "Yeah, sure enough." And, and it had its white eye shine on and it was just walking parallel on the trail next to me. I didn't even hear it. It wasn't making a noise. But and then I went camping with them at this other area I had never been to. And the first night they were running around the tent and one came in my tent and took a gift that they'd given me once and stuck it in my car. So it was like, okay, how do the Bigfoot know me wherever I go? Because you know how they say you need to keep going back to an area so the Bigfoot will get to know you and all. Well, these were the first times I'd ever been to any of these places. And I had sightings and encounters the very first night. So I think once you get tagged, they all know you. They're all connected.
I absolutely agree because when I was introduced to Bigfoot, uh, they sort of started coming to me in 2012, and I was living in Miami, Florida. They would come into my apartment, and I didn't even live anywhere near woods, not even 5 miles away from. There was not even woods anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had to go about 12 or 15 miles out, then you hit the Everglades, and then there was all kind of activity out there, but. So it wasn't, they could get there if they wanted to, but they would come
That's
mostly invisibly. They would like hit the door of my house, and I was in an apartment, 2nd-story apartment. That means they'd come up at 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody around, they'd slap the door of my house, and stuff like that. And one time they did a tree break. Again, it was in town. It was, and then another time they did this thing where they wanted me to know. So they took a branch that was like a Y, and they threw it up over my neighbor's telephone lines. So because I was on the 2nd story, I had like one little window. It's like a little cheap apartment. I had one little window I could look at. When I looked out the window, I could see my neighbor's house and then the telephone lines above, and there was the stick of the line like that. So they did all kind of stuff. They did all kind of stuff like that. They left me a footprint in the grass, you know, and stick lifts. So, but the thing is, the point I was getting to was when I moved to Savannah, which was last April before this, a year ago. Uh, I thought, well, you know, so because I was really attached to my Sasquatch friend down there in Miami. So, but you know, I don't see him. I don't see him, so I don't know where they could be. For all I know, my Sasquatch friend could be living in Texas. For all I know. And anyway, so when I came to Savannah, it's like, oh well, you know, I really hope I get connected to the Sasquatch, and you know, da da da. And sure enough, you know, they were here. They let me know. They throw rocks on my roof, leave me little gifts, and
There you go.
they did stick lifts in my front yard, like
Mm-hmm.
since the beginning. And then I did this thing where I thought, let me find some. I looked on the Google Maps of Savannah. I thought, let me find a little patch of woods just anywhere close to my house. So I found this little patch of wood that was close to Mars Lake Park, and there was so that at the end of Mars Lake Park there was like a little river and little stream, and then a patch of woods, and then there was a baseball field and a place where people go swimming and stuff. So I thought, well, I'll go out there and have a look. So I walked out there, and sure enough, I saw stick lifts. I saw bent over trees and all kind of signs that they were there. I actually saw where they went, and they would hide up underneath this tree and underneath like a little palm tree thing. And they could see across the field to the kids who were playing baseball. So I knew that they were in Savannah, and I was probably deeper into town. I'm probably deeper into town than you were.
Yeah. Supposed to be a hot spot. I have another friend in Savannah, and he actually has a Savannah Bigfoot page. I ought to add you to that group. Yeah, Savannah is supposed to be a really, really
Was
great
that the one
area.
with the crypto Savannah and crypto something? I'm in that group.
Yeah, actually, we used to be called Savannah something else, and now it's called, I think, UFO and all things crypto. So maybe our
I know that guy. Yeah.
Philip from
Philip Paul Polk or something like that.
I'm running a brain fart. Is that what you call it?
Philip, yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's Philip.
We're supposed to go out. There was another place, but it's not like it's really on fire here because there's not enough woods. You know, you have to be. You know.
Yeah. Right. You have to go a little on the outskirts a little, but it doesn't take much of a little strip of woods. We were talking about telepathic things. One of the things that really stands out to me that they did telepathic was one time our father-in-law was living here, and he had a Bigfoot sighting while he was here, and it was great because he didn't believe in the Bigfoot, and old man. In fact, he died last year. And so it's really great when they come into an old person's life because it gives them some excitement. All of his friends had died off, and then all of a sudden now he's got the Bigfoot in his life. And it just really, really encouraged him, made him want to live every day to see the Bigfoot. And one night, the Bigfoot came and got on our roof. It was just one of them. And I don't know if it was a really big one or what, but it sounded really, really loud. I mean, really loud bipedal steps. And it was following me around the house. You hear about them getting on people's roofs, but this was just hilarious because I would go to the master bedroom and it would follow me in the master bedroom. And then I would go in the laundry room all the way across the house and it would follow me all the way to the laundry room. So then I would go to the office on the other side of the house and it would follow me all the way across. And it really wasn't following me. It was walking in sync with me.
Whoa.
Right with me, and it was on the roof, because I thought about that. Okay, how would you explain that without using roof?
That is a teaching, and he gave you a teaching, and you're giving us a teaching. What does that mean? That they can be in complete sync with you, either miles away or up on the roof or anywhere. So it's that synchronicity, that complete.
They have to know my thought where I was like having it and reacting on it to be able to stay in sync with me. you
Absolutely.
know? I mean, they say our brain actually doesn't work for like 2 seconds. We have a thought and then it shuts down, 1, 2. And then we have and it comes back alive and then it shuts down. So I guess in those 2 seconds where the thought came out, I'm going to walk with my right foot out now, it caught that thought, you know?
Well, that's what I was saying. Like just now when I said that's what I was saying, right? You were talking, and then this whole image came in of that of as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to say that's what I was saying, right?
Okay,
But
so we're connecting now.
but the point is that that's the way to tell that I know what you're going to say, and I'm already have the answer ready before you even stop. You see, and
Yeah.
right now you have what you want to say before I even stop. That's the stuff. And everybody has this. And so all you were doing. So in
Yes.
order for you to walk, you have to have a second before you walk. You have this image. I'm going to walk here, right? So
Right.
and you're psychically
Right.
telling your left foot, right foot balance, right? All he has
The
to do
brain's
is
connecting to
all
the
you have to do
foot.
is tune into that which is happening before you take a step, and he can mimic you from that, so he can actually repeat exactly. And that's a teaching. That's a big teaching that they are that connected.
Yeah, I mean, if it had like been following me, then somebody could say, well, it could hear you up from the roof and they have really good hearing, but it wasn't. It was staying in sync with me. So it wasn't hearing. You
It was not hearing. That's it.
know? So I really like, that's just that nailed it for me, that they were totally connected and, to my psychic. It's like, okay. I went out on the porch and my cat was looking up at the roof because, I wondered if he was getting scared since I had a Bigfoot walking around on my roof. And he was looking straight up at the ceiling going, meow, like he was screaming bloody murder. And so I, said, okay, Biggies, no scaring the cats. You got to get off the roof. And they didn't do it again since then. They really do listen. And sometimes you have to set a little bit of boundaries.
Well, there's another thing that I read just like a couple of days ago where these research scientists guys, they did this really simple little experiment. They took a little DNA from somebody's mouth and they put it in a little container, right? And then they would watch it, right? And now they pick these people who had good emotions. They can experience, they could give themselves fear or joy or all these different things, and then they would watch the changes in the DNA, and then they put the DNA in another room, and they had this guy go through their routine, and the DNA in the other room would respond. And then they kept moving it. So in real time. So it's that is trying to make afraid or trying to feel love or trying to be anxious or whatever the feeling is, angry, whatever the feeling was, and the DNA would respond. And they kept doing this until they ran out of money at 230 miles away. That in real time, our own DNA will respond to our emotions in real time at that kind of a distance. So that's what I'm saying. So that's how we know, if our mom dies or somebody's going to call you on the phone, is because we share the same DNA with those people. And they're going to, you say, hey, how you doing, Judy? I knew you were going to call.
Scientific explanation on how the science behind the psychic works, because really I do believe woo and magic and psychic all is science that we just don't completely understand yet. That is the way my father taught it to me. He never used the word magic or woo or anything when he was teaching me how to do things. He just said it was science. Of course I believe in magic and woo and all, but I do believe there's a scientific explanation behind all of it.
And to me, like we were talking about the ape only people. So if only physical, it's a wood ape or something. Those people have been out in the woods all the time. The Sasquatch have tagged them. They know what's going on. So to me, when they decide to get in their car and go to that location, the Sasquatch know that they're getting in that car and going to go to that location and they're going to do this and this and this. before they even start their car, they pretty much know what's going
Yeah.
on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have actually a good story that kind of like relates to that. Um, you know how they say the Bigfoot can follow you home or follow you around and stuff, and Arla, gets followed around a lot by her Bigfoot, and in fact, I have learned so much from Arla and Tom Cantrell. They're probably two of the people I learned the most from besides the Bigfoot. And we all went on a trip, Arla and Gail and Kay and Jonathan and me. We all caravanned and went to Barb Shoop's house to camp in Washington. And before we got there, we had Gail was leading in her car, and Jonathan and I were following, and then Kay and Arla were following us. And Gail wanted to pull over and take pictures of Mount St. Helen when it's just gorgeous. I thought that's a great idea. So we all pulled over. And right before Gail decided that, I had whispered, Peanut, I'm in Washington now. There's a Bigfoot I call Peanut. And I like to call on him to follow me around places. And so I was just whispering to tell him I was in Washington now. And Jonathan said, what'd you whisper? And I went, oh, nothing, because I didn't know if it would happen or not. And then we got out of the car, and right away, Arla and Jonathan, and I guess Kay and Gail notices these Bigfoot footprints right there in the snow, right where we get out of the car to take a picture. And we have pictures of it. Gail posted it.
And that's astounding. So I mean, you're on the road, driving along 40, 50 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour, and they go, let's stop and take a picture, right? So from the time you said, let's stop and take the picture, you have to slow down, find a place to pull over. And then when you find a place to pull over, and then what happens? You get out, and there's footprints right there. Now,
right there.
You can't explain that. There's no other way to explain that. They knew, they probably knew an hour before that you're going to be there, and they went out there or whatever. They knew exactly where you're going to stop the car.
They had to. Gail posted pictures of it the other day in Spiritual Sasquatch. Because what are the chances you pull over and right there are Bigfoot footprints? I mean, they were great prints, castable and everything. They're right in the snow. and then right before we left, I happened to notice there was a freaking raw peanut sitting there. You know how I told you I gave the Bigfoot raw peanut?
You're kidding me. You're kidding me. An actual raw peanut from your friend
and
Peanut.
I just said, Peanut, I'm in Washington now.
And Peanut says, I was here.
And we were all like shaking our heads like, oh my gosh. We all took pictures of the Peanut,
What a great story. Unbelievable. But that's the reality. And from all my friends who have this kind of psychic contact, they tell stories about that. This is one guy named Hal in a Spiritual Sasquatch group. He talks about, did you see his post where he talks about, he goes to the Grateful Dead concert, and all of his Sasquatch friends come along and hang out with him.
Cool.
And he's been doing this for them because they like that music.
Yeah, cool.
And then a second lady said that what was that Peanuts? It was like Charlie Brown on Ice or something like that, right? She said she took her kids to go to see Charlie Brown on Ice, and all of her Sasquatch friends showed up and were like hanging around and having fun because of the music and it's like a great show.
Yeah, well, a lot of us believe they love watching kids, and they're jokesters and love to have fun. So it doesn't surprise me.
Well, I think we should take
a break.
Yeah, let's take a little break because I think we got a lot more. But this was just so fabulous. Let's take a little break and we'll come back. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, we're back on for our round two, and we're just before I turned on, we're talking about psychic abilities and how it's not a joke, and and that they're equal to the highest humans on the earth, and they're equal to the highest ET people who come and visit the earth. And the ET people with all their technology, they seem like they're so advanced, but they're exactly the same. I got a list of something like 38 things that they can do that the Sasquatch and the ET people can do. Like your batteries go dead, or they can make you see things that are not there, or they can see things that aren't there. and then they can put thoughts in your head. They can give you whole dreams and visions. They can
Yeah.
come and visit you at night. That they've actually taken people out of time and put them back in time. There's stories of that. The Sasquatch doing it when people are driving, and it just goes on and on and on. What are some others? They can walk through walls. They can dematerialize in front of your face, or anytime they want, and they can go halfway in and halfway out. And they can. What are some of the other good ones? But you said you had some good stories
Yes,
about that
you were
too.
mentioning, those psychic things, and it reminded me of some encounters I had where I actually witnessed some of those things besides the ones I already spoke of. Um, One time I went and sat on my back porch, and it was right after the first camp out that I went to with Arla, and Tom Cantrell was there, and Bob Gimlin, and Keith Bearden, and Sam Chandler. A lot of the people who are speakers at this conference were there, and I got to meet them all my first time. I even drummed with Bob Gimlin, but I'd had a lot of Bigfoot experiences that camp out. I mean, blow my mind ones. And you know how they say they will follow you home sometimes. So it was over. It went on for a while for me because one of the ladies got stuck at the camp out. She lived in Florida and the hurricane had hit there, so she couldn't go home. She lived on an island there, and it was closed off, so she couldn't even get back. And so I was going there with my husband a lot at night to keep her company and check on her, and we had some amazing experiences. But after that, I came home and I came out and sat on my porch, and I think it was my psychic, feeling their energy or sensing them. And I just turned to the right, and I saw this big ball up. It was in the air, and it had just turned dark, so you could barely see it. It was kind of dithered and blended in with the night. If I hadn't looked right there, I probably would have never noticed it. But it was a large circle, and it was half orange at the top and half red at the bottom. And there was a line between the orange and the red, like it was a horizon line. And I turned my head because I had been freaked out so much already that I wasn't sure that I wanted to see it. And then I thought, well, turn back and look, Ginger, or you'll always want to know what it was. So I turned back and looked, and then the ball disappeared, well, the circle. And then all of a sudden there was a Bigfoot standing there, and he didn't have his eyeshine flaring out. He just had two almond shaped eyes, and it was bright white, no pupil inside, just all light white energy. And it came walking towards me. It was in my neighbor's backyard, and it came walking towards my yard. And then when it got to the border of my yard, it turned and went into my wood line and into my woods. And then I couldn't see it anymore because it was dark, and it turned its back to me, so I couldn't see its eye shine anymore. But I immediately messaged to my friends Jonathan and Nita, and I was like, what was that circle I saw? And and I go, maybe an orb, maybe a portal. And I had seen an orb before, and it didn't look like that to me because, for one thing, it had that line in between, cutting the colors in half. And so I thought, a Bigfoot appeared right after the circle disappeared. And I know that they can change form, and people have seen them go from orb form to Bigfoot form, so maybe that's what happened. But then I looked up online, and I actually found that there is a planet that has an orange sky with a red surface. So I think I was actually seeing into a portal and seeing into another world, and the Bigfoot had came through it.
That's entirely possible. I mean, I have a friend of mine in New York State, up in New York State, which is real mountainous, and he's in this hot spot, and he sees UFOs every night, every day, and every night, right? So,
Yeah.
and he said,
Yeah,
and he says that you'll sit there and watch the UFO, and it'll be
I
off in
bet
the
we're thinking
distance,
the same
and then
friend.
a big ball of light will come out of the UFO,
Mm-hmm.
and then the light will disappear, and then two or three Sasquatch will be running around.
Yep.
And so this has been going on for years. That he said he's been seeing this. He doesn't like to have his name.
Watched his live videos if we're thinking about the same one. And it was like, yeah, I saw that. And I was like, that makes sense then from stuff I've seen. And yeah, those are live videos. So you can't say he's making it up or anything, And then another time, I was sitting in my backyard and on one of those trails, like I'd said in the first 1 hour we did. And I had gotten where I used to sit in the woods almost every night and talk to the Bigfoot just out loud. Like I said, I had became where I loved them, and I had made them my therapist. And I would just tell them all my thoughts and all my worries for the day. And then all of a sudden, I would think these thoughts that would never had came to my mind. It would be completely different than what I was thinking, and it totally would solve my problem. And I'm like, oh, I'm good now. And it was like immediately, as soon as I would tell them my problems, I would have a completely different thought. And, you know, to me, that was them doing mind speak with me and telepathy. And it would help so much that my husband
you just opened up a whole new category, and that is the stories of Sasquatch who help people who are emotionally in problems or physical have problems, or have done physical healing on people. There's a lot of stories like Kwani Labradosis has a lot of stories about that, and I've heard a lot of them. You know, like, what is that? And the whole what do you call it? The emotional thing is that humans have a big problem with emotional energy because we get stuck with emotional energy and we don't know how to clear it.
It gets stuck in our chakras and everything. Yeah.
Right. It affects everything. It makes people's most illnesses because of emotional disturbance that has never been dealt with, and it works out into the body as disease. So that's like really profound, and I think they have a lot to teach in that level.
Yeah, they were healing me all the time and teaching me, and it's like they were my teachers. I didn't know anybody in the Bigfoot world until that camp out, until I met Arla and them. So I didn't have people to go to, and I was just going, you know, with my own feelings. And I mean, it was working so much. My husband would actually say when I was upset, go out there and sit in the woods and talk to the Bigfoot. I mean, that's how much it would work, and that he noticed it, and it would work. And sometimes I'd be mad at him and he would tell me, go sit out there, and I'd come back not mad at him. I mean, it would always work, you know. And one night I was sitting in the woods doing my thing, talking to the Bigfoot again. And all of a sudden, my husband comes out on the screen porch, and he flips on the porch light, and he says, honey, are you out there? And I look up at him, and all of a sudden this Bigfoot walks right out in front of me, but it was see-through. It walks right between my husband and the porch and I could see my husband and the screen porch through the Bigfoot. I never lost sight of him. I was answering him and saying, yes, honey, while I was watching this Bigfoot walk in front of me, and I could see my husband the whole time on the other side through it. And it went over to 2 parallel trees in my yard, and it started merging into them, and it was sticking out, you know, a couple inches, and it was still see-through. So I turned my head because I thought, I've got to be going crazy. This has got to be a mirage or something. And I turned my head and closed my eyes and then opened it back up and looked again to see if it disappeared, to see if it was all in my mind. And it wasn't. It was still there, and it was still see-through, and it was still merging in between these 2 parallel trees. And now it was only sticking out about an inch, and then it just completely merged in and just disappeared. So I had a cloaked Bigfoot walk right out in front of me.
Did you hear about that guy Barry Webster over at the Red Sasquatch?
Mary Webster at Red Sasquatch? No, I haven't.
Red Sasquatch. This guy, he's out, and I think he's in Oklahoma or someplace. I forget what he says. He said he was from, but I heard him on the radio, and I heard him on the video, and he was friends, right? So this guy, he's like a real religious. Like he has his little troop of like 8 or 10 people, and they go out Sasquatching like every night, you know what I mean? And they always pray before they go, and they pray once they get there, and then they have their little adventures, right? Well, he decided he wanted to go out. He had this quest. He wanted to shake hands with a Sasquatch, right? He wanted to shake hands. So they went out there, they prayed, they did a little thing, and it was like a quest for him. He said, I'm going to give up Sasquatching or something if I can just shake hands with him. So he called the Sasquatch and says, I want to shake hands with you. And this Sasquatch appeared, and he was completely translucent. You could see right through him, but you could kind of see the outline, and walked right up to him. Okay. And you know, this guy Barry is really scared, but he was holding his ground and keeping in his faith and everything. The Sasquatch started moved his hand out. He said he could see the hand, but when he went to go touch it, it wasn't there. He didn't feel anything, and he shook the guy's hand, shook his hand, right. And as he
Yeah.
was shaking the Sasquatch hand, all of his friends were there, and he said, "Can you guys see this?" And all 8 of them said, "We see him." Right? He was invisible. They could see the outline of him, and so he did
Right.
that in front of 8 people. Okay, so
Right.
what you're saying is, I think they want us to know about this going invisible business, you know, and
Yeah.
that's part of what they can do. That's
Yeah. I
profound. It's
think
profound
they let
stuff.
people see it that would be open to it. I mean, it wouldn't do any good to let someone see it who would justify it in their head right away as something else and deny it. You know, Tom Cantrell has a story in one of his books about that happening, where a lady saw 2 Bigfoot, and then other people saw them too. But you know, right afterwards, she was already justified in her head that it wasn't Bigfoot, and you know, that happens so much. I've had encounters with people, and right afterwards, they start trying to justify it as something else. And it's like, no, just let yourself believe what you saw.
Absolutely, absolutely. That reminds me of Brian. Brian Bland. He was walking with his friend, and they were walking along this trail, and he sees this big Bigfoot. You know, it's like as the trail goes down, as you look further away, he saw this Bigfoot walk across the trail, kind of far away, and his friend was
Mm-hmm.
walking like right next to him. He said, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" He said it was a Bigfoot, and and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and his friend said, "What do you mean? There was all I saw was just a little Scotty dog walking across the street." Walking
Mm-hmm.
across the trail. So this guy, all he could see was like a little dog, like a little, you know, a little lap dog walking across. And but uh but Brian saw it full blast, and they can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, like you said, sometimes it's only meant for certain people to see or hear something. And I met William Henry, another researcher, at the Bigfoot Expedition Museum last fall. And we went hiking afterwards at a place neither one of us had ever been to. And I didn't even know there were Bigfoot there. Right before it turned dark, we're walking back to the car, and a Bigfoot ran right out in front of us on the trail. And we both saw it. It was so fast. It was just like whoosh. But you know, he was open to seeing it. If I'd been with somebody else, I don't know that they would have recognized that as a Bigfoot and noted that they saw one. You know, so I think it has a lot to being open to it. If you're not going to be open to the woo, then most likely you're not going to recognize it, or you will see it and justify it out of your head. I've even had somebody with me before think that I manifested it and made them see it. Talk about justifying in your head.
Well, that's what they talk about, cognitive dissonance. You know,
Right,
cognitive
it is.
dissonance, you have a worldview. Everything's material. Everything's like I've always seen it to be. It's just the way it is. And then when something new happens, you don't have a place to fit it. You actually don't have receptive centers in your brain to receive it, and the brain
Right.
starts making up excuses.
Well, because it kind of rocks your whole mind. It's you know, something that you've never thought of before, and it changes about everything the way you think in life. So sometimes it's just too hard for some people's mind to accept. Um, that's why I really don't work on making trying to make people believe, because sometimes they just can't. It is actually a psychological problem. You know, you could standing right in front of a Bigfoot and they will walk away and justify it as something else. So, and you know, we are open to it or we are not, you know. But I believe that everybody can, you know, open themselves to it. Just sometimes we're not ready yet. And I think the Bigfoot know when they come to us whether or not we are ready. And sometimes maybe it's a test to see if we are ready.
Well, I wanted to shift gears a little bit here and ask you a couple of questions. Like I'm friends with the people who are at the Free Foundation, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, and they did the world's biggest survey on people who've been taken on craft or been contacted, any kind of modality, dreams or visions or whatever, or out of body experience or near death experience, all those kind of things. And 600 questions on this survey. It was like 3-phase survey, and they wrote a big book of like 1,000-page book on it. But anyway, one of the important things that they found out was about how people's personal lives have changed. So when people are contacted, right, they get an elevated spirit, psychic abilities bloom, their connection to Mother Earth gets really strong, their faith in
go in the woods more and everything.
They go in the woods more, or they want to help people more. They want to be of service. A lot of them became healers. And it's just like the list is just a big long list about almost every quarter of their life was improved. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Can you talk about any of the ways that you feel like your life has improved from being having these kind of interactions with Sasquatch?
Oh, my life has changed greatly. You know, they always say it changes your life for good. Well, it does. And I had a lot of encounters. So, of course, it changed me a lot. I mean, for one thing, it made me start using my psychic abilities on purpose, you know, rather than trying to hide them and make them go away. You know, and I stopped believing that they were evil, and you know, and so that was huge for me, because then I started actually taking psychic classes and you know, trying to learn as much as I could to improve my abilities so that I could even talk to the Bigfoot better and everything else. And it's actually led me into healing work. So, I mean, it's changed my life completely. I'm a completely different person. I changed my entire group of friends. I don't hang out with any of the same people I used to. I changed, everything in my life has completely changed. And I've also learned to be more open and not so afraid what people think of me. Used to, I was afraid to tell anybody I was even psychic. And I was afraid they would reject me and think I'm weird and stuff like that, or think I was bad, because some people do. You know, like I said, some religions don't think it's good. And I remember when I was with my Bigfoot group, I was afraid for them to find out, and I learned lots of them were too. Like you said, lots of people in the Bigfoot world are. And it was like, oh, people like me, you know. And that was such a huge relief to me, where I could finally open up and be me and be myself again. So the Bigfoot, what they have done when they came into my life is they taught me about me, and they helped me remember who I am and helped me learn about me.
Let me stop you right there. That should be probably the biggest message, because that, I think, is what's going on. When you get in touch with either the ET people or any spiritual beings, angels or and specifically Sasquatch, because there's a lot of Sasquatch connection now, you end up finding more out about yourself. You find out what's real and important with you, and what's valuable, you know? What a gift that is to learn about yourself.
That. Yes. Arla Colette always says that. She always says, when you go searching for the Bigfoot, you find you. And it is so true. That is exactly what happened to me. I found the me I forgot about.
Wow. I found the me that I forgot about. And it is good. And it's good to be me, you know?
Yeah. Right. And now in the last couple years, it's where I've been accepting who I am, you know, and to the point where now it's like, it's okay that I've got abilities, and it's okay if others know, and it's okay to use them and try to use them for the good and things like that. So it's really changed me. It's bringing, let me be me, who I was born like.
Yeah, this whole psychic ability thing is very real. You feel almost every big city police officers, they have a psychic around. Animal communicators, who are professional. They get paid, you know, to work with horses and in zoos. It's a very good job. Then you have the remote viewing people. They have businesses and they do remote viewing for giant corporations. This is all woo, and they're getting paid for it. You know what I mean? People are making
Yeah.
money, and they're living their life
Mhm.
off of their psychic abilities. And then there's the psychic healers. There's a lot of
And
psychic.
there's nothing wrong with that. You can make
They
money
charge.
off of
I
farm
know. I
healer.
know this lady. She charges. I think it's $200, but it's guaranteed. You said I can either heal you or you don't have to pay me. And she's like a world famous psychic. So it is
Hmm.
it is a real deal. You know what I mean? It's not like you witches riding a broom. It is sophisticated people who are highly tuned in to what's going on, and they're willing to help other people.
Hmm. Yes, I do soul retrievals on people now, and I really, really enjoy it. And that's just something I learned in the past year. And I charge money for that unless someone can't afford it. But it's no different than if you had any other ability. If you were a nurse or a doctor and you charge, so that's just abilities that the Creator gave us that we were born with.
Yeah, well, soul retrieval is like a big deal, you know. And here people don't, like I said, we've been actually dumbed down in our society for a long time to not accept any of this kind of stuff. I mean, we in the United States we actually had witch trials, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And but the psychic people, you know, have never really gone away. You know, you look at that guy Edgar Casey, and he had like an 85 or 95% success rate on all, and he was doing primarily medical, right? He would tell people what was wrong with their body and how to heal it. And he did that with tens of thousands of people. It was just amazing. And so, you know, we have a history of that too. And although he didn't get paid, nowadays, if somebody was like him, he would get paid, you know?
Yeah, yeah. My cat Sunny is trying to chew on something I have sitting out. I wanted to show you, so I'm having to lift it up. Um, um, sometimes I think the Bigfoot even use their psychic abilities to make some of the structures. Um, I have a friend that I met when I was up in Washington. She took Kay and Gail and I to one of her Bigfoot spots, and they do weaves there that I have never seen ever in my life. And I can't understand how they do it. I'm going to show you a picture of it so you can see what I mean. I actually decorated this one for Christmas and made it a Christmas decoration. So it's got a little stuff stuck to it now. But can you see that weave?
Oh yeah.
How Okay, now see the bottom branches, how they come out,
Put it up in front of your face. Okay. Yeah.
right? So they're not circled like that circle, like these circles you can see. So there's no way possible that I could take one of these branches and turn it into one of these circles without it breaking.
All
Can you
right.
see? See, so I think these weaves right here, when they're, making things like this, they're using their psychic abilities.
It could be. I mean,
Because if I
the
try to use
Sasquatch
that branch,
themselves. The Sasquatch themselves have said that they have this relationship with rocks, and with their psychic abilities, they can change the density of rocks, and they made these big giant rock formations, and that's another thing that's been dimmed down. There's these big giant rock formations all over the United States. You know, rocks with three rocks and then another one bouncing on top. That would, you know, you couldn't take a whole tribe of Indians to do it. So
right?
they've been making their mark on humanity for a long time. And
Yeah, and
and I think their psychic
somebody,
abilities. I think their psychic abilities help them do a lot of things, because a lot of stuff that they do is just unbelievable. Some giant X's and stuff.
trees that are bent over and like these twists. I mean, there was just twist after twist in her area. One of them was even shaped like a heart. And I mean, these are like twigs. They would snap if I tried to bend one. And she had one even shaped in a heart in her area. Okay, they've got to be somehow being able to bend the wood, using their psychic without it busting like that. So that's why I wanted to show you that twist. She actually gave me that twist as a little gift when I was up there in Washington. But we had some neat experiences at Barb Shoop's house, that's for sure.
Well,
um,
have you seen any of the little ones, the babies?
no, I haven't actually seen the babies with my own eyes, but I do think they've talked to me. When they were in my yard, I think one of them was a really, really young juvenile. And maybe that's why I got chewed out throwing an apple one night. Because when one night I went and walked down the trail and I had an apple in my hand, and this is the same trail that I keep telling you all these things happened on. And from right behind the bush, I hear out loud, ooh, ooh, ah, oh. Like, and it sounded like a little tiny girl. It's more like, ooh, ooh, ha, oh, like that. You know, my voice is a little hoarse, but it sounded like a little tiny Bigfoot girl asking for an apple. You know, I had that apple in my hand and it said, ah, oh. And it sounded like a tiny, tiny little girl. So I think that was a little juvenile girl that was in my yard, and I actually named her Apple because of that. And I threw the apple right there in the bushes, you know, after she said that. But no, I haven't actually seen a little juvenile yet with my own eyes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else to say. I'm just my mind it just goes into a complete blank after all this, just because
Neat, interesting
it's so
things.
much of a cornucopia of experiences, you know. Well,
Oh,
what do you see in the future for Sasquatch?
you know, that's a good question. I think they're going to keep awakening us, and that we are going to keep evolving and changing because so many people are learning about Bigfoot now when it used to just be, it seemed like a small handful. And so many people are waking up to their psychic abilities and becoming healers and stuff. So it seems this is for a reason. So I think what they're doing is trying to help us and save our planet.
I think so too. Let's just clear one thing up real right away. Do you feel that there's anything demonic or negative or evil about the Sasquatch people?
No, I don't at all. I think what happens is I've actually had some fear encounters and fear experiences, and I'm really not into listening to those because, you know, I'm afraid it'll put fear in me, and we can manifest, you know, our encounters and destinies. And so, but I've had them and I do share them so that they can hopefully help someone. But I think what happens as part of it is our imagination is run wild because I know that's happened to me, and we start thinking that they're going to attack us but they didn't attack us. And we see that when people write encounters, you know, it was going to attack me, but you never hear that it did attack them. You see what I mean? It's people's imaginations running wild. And you know, it was aggressive. Well, what did it do aggressive? Well, it didn't do anything, but you know, you know, or it made a loud noise or something, you know. But I used to get bluff charged, and when I was going through a testing period. You know, I had all these wonderful experiences sitting in the yard with them, talking to them and stuff. And then all of a sudden, they decided to give me a good testing. And came out on my screen porch and they would charge me and run straight at me and stop right before they got to the screen porch. And it was loud as heck. I mean, they wouldn't care if there were bushes and trees in the way. They just smashed them and broke them all, you know? So it was like crash, crash, you know, coming right at me, you know? And it was happening night after night after night. And at first I thought, oh, you guys are just happy to see me. And I kind of took it as a compliment. And somewhere fear came in. And I think that they can also project fear as a defense mechanism to get us to leave an area. It's a great way to get us to leave an area without us being hurt. You know, if we feel fear, we run away. And but so maybe they were projecting it because I was being tested, and it started scaring me. And I asked them to stop, and they wouldn't, and they just kept doing it, and they kept doing it. And I got where I was afraid to come out on my own screen porch at night. And finally, I was sitting in my room one night and I thought, this is not fair. This is my yard. And, you know, and I had realized already that these were supreme beings and they were probably on this earth long before I was, though. So it was also their land. So I was mad, though, because this is my porch and I ought to feel like I can sit on there without being scared to death. So finally, after taking about a month of being bluff charged every night, I came out on the porch and I chewed them out. You know? I took my finger at them and I said, I completely understand that you were probably on this land long before me, but I bought this property now, so we have to share. And it quit after that. And I think that was part of my testing. They wanted me to stick up for myself. They wanted to see what I would do in a scary situation, if I would try to hurt them or if I would get past it and move on, you know. And a lot of the things that you will see from the Bigfoot in the woo can be scary because we've never seen it. You know, like when I saw the portal opened, if that's what it was, you know. And so we have to learn to be able to fight the fear. So maybe that was a lesson for me, to learn to fight the fear. You know, if we have to, if we're going to be able to see more, how can the Bigfoot show us these amazing things if we're going to be afraid?
Well, I could not agree more. I think it is an actual teaching, and it's a test. It is like an initiation. Well, you know, we're willing to show you some cool stuff, but you can't do that if you have fear. You know, so to them, it's like fear, and it's at the end of fear is the beginning of a kind of a different kind of a consciousness. You know,
Yeah.
As long as you have like this kind of fear thing in your life, then that's sort of like a dip in your energy. But when you actually face your fear and are able to push through it, or you know, or just feel it till it doesn't feel anymore, then you have a completely different, it's like an expanded, and it's actually an expansion of your heart. Because if you want to meet somebody on a heart level, well, what keeps people from meeting on a heart level is fear. Oh, I'm afraid you're going to hurt my heart, or I'm afraid you're going to hurt me or something, right? So when you have this fearlessness, is like a very high state for human beings. So that's why I say it's like an initiation. It's like if you're going to be part of the family, you can't have this fear thing, which is why I think they did it night after night after night to finally get you into fear.
Right. You know, and I think it's testing, and you have to pass for them to be able to show you more.
You have to pass, yeah. Or you run away. Some people run away and they get PTSD and all that kind of stuff. Then they become keyboard warriors, and they don't want to go out in the woods anymore, but they still want to find out about Sasquatch. It's a hoot.
Yeah. Well, I actually got traumatized too from the Bigfoot once. And I was going out on the weekends, you know, where Sam and Paul and Keith and I would go every weekend to hopefully have a Bigfoot encounter. And we had a lot of them. Well, one night we had just walked down this one trail and got to the end of it, and we're getting ready to go on another one. As soon as I hit the trail, I hear this voice in my head, and it sounded like this: don't go down this trail. Just like that. And I thought, what the heck? That didn't come from me, because I don't talk like that. You know? I mean, it was extremely serious and scary and commanding sounding. And so I said something right away to my husband, and I said, I'm scared now. And fear energy started overwhelming me. And he said, well, what do you want to do? Go back? Well, going back was a little bit further walk than going forward. And so I said, no, that's okay. We'll just keep going. So, I mean, the fear energy was so overwhelming, and I didn't understand the message in my head. I had never had mind speak like that, where it was so clear that it wasn't me. And so threatening kind of sounding. And we kept walking, and I started singing in my head, follow the yellow brick road, because I was trying to kill the fear. And these are things I do to kill fear. I sing or dance or whatever. And so I started singing that, and we finally get to about the end of the trail, and we're way high up on this hill. And my husband says, look at that car. And, you know, we're almost to the road. And I thought, why is he telling me look at a car? So I look at it, and I see this headlight coming down the road, and then it turns and starts coming at us. And I didn't ever see the other brake lights or the other headlight. And I said, Paul, where are the other brake lights and the other headlight? And then it got close to us, and I got frozen. And I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I don't even know if I was breathing. I couldn't even think the word fear. I was just frozen with fear. So overwhelming. I couldn't move or think. And I could only watch the big headlight coming by, and it ran, you know, right in front of us, right down the road, right where the trail met the road. And I watched it walk past, and when it got in front of us, you could see there was a body attached to it, and it looked like it was gliding. You know, it wasn't like us running up and down. It looked like it was gliding. And then it got to the end of the road where I couldn't see it anymore. And my husband turned around to me and said, so what do you want to do now? And I couldn't talk. He had to ask me 3 times, what do you want to do now? What do you want to do now? And finally, you know, I brought my mind enough to, and I just said, let's go to the car, because I was frightened to death then. And I couldn't think. I just said, let's go to the car. And he goes, well, we just got here. I guess we'd already been there like 45 minutes or so. I don't know. And I said, okay. So he goes, well, why don't we just walk down this little tiny trail? So then we did that. We went to the car because I was scared to death after that. And I do believe I was zapped. And it took me weeks before I would go back to the woods, and I was spooked for several months. I mean, Sam Chandler came, that you interviewed, and to meet Keith and Paul and I several weeks after that down the trail, and he came with this big black jacket on, and it was the puffy kind. And I saw him coming down the trail, and it was night, and I just saw the big black puffy jacket, and I thought it was a Bigfoot coming at us, and it made me jump a mile high. And Sam goes, boy, you are still spooked, aren't you? And yeah, I'll never forget, don't go down this trail. And I did, and I got zapped at the end. But I think that was for my safety, because I've never had a Bigfoot harm me or try to harm me, and it didn't give me any lasting effects except for some PTSD. But I worked on overcoming it, and I kept going back in the woods and try to think, why would the Bigfoot do this to me? And it healed me of it. It really did. I haven't ever had the fear of being zapped again. So I am healed from it.
I think there's things in the woods that aren't Sasquatch, that the Sasquatch will tell you this is not a good time, because there's some bad things out there that are
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing I want to say is about this heart space, right? When you go into your fear all the way out, right, till it's terror, into fear till it's terror, that's where you get PTSD, right? When you go into there all the way out, then you actually come to an end of fear. Okay, beyond that, there's only so much fear that a human being can handle. And then beyond that, that's it. And then from then on, the rest of your life, you'll never reach that spot again. So in a way, it's an end of fear. But to balance that out, you can also go out into anger. So when you get angry, until it turns into rage, and then blind rage, right? Then you can get into blind rage. Then you get to the end of that. So there's an end of fear, and then there's an end of blind rage. And in that process, it's our heart isn't here. Our heart is out here. So we could, to be afraid for a loved one, or to try to protect our loved one, that we need these huge feelings of fear and of anger to be able to function on a really high level. So that's a pretty deep.
I've been through so much fear that it takes a lot more to scare me now. Yeah. To really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. There's like an end to it. It's like, okay, that doesn't scare me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what a gift. What a gift to have the end of fear.
Right. Somebody that interviewed me once is actually a counselor for people who have been alien abducted and stuff like that. And he told me somebody told him once that they had no fear. And he said he really thought about that. And he said, no fear. That means you've known fear. You know fear.
That's it. And this is what the people who have near-death experiences have. That mean they went into death. And then, you know, whatever it was on operating, come back and go,
anymore.
I'm not afraid of death anymore, you know, so I'm not no reason to be afraid of a dog or a cat or
exactly.
Because I've already been dead and they come back. So and they have this whole thing happens to them. It is like a spiritual, and I wish the people who are in terror of and Dogman and in the terror of the Bigfoot and then people who are scared they gotta have 10 guns on. I wish they understood that if they could just face their fear.
Face the fear, and overcome it, and then you can move forward.
Yeah,
yes.
And then you're going to find something on a different level.
Right. Well, then you're with a Bigfoot on a total different level that can work with you more.
On a totally different level. Well, see, let me tell you what my understanding was. As soon as I understood that the Sasquatch were invisible and they would come in my house and they'd poke my feelings when I'm watching videos and stuff, and they liked what I was doing and all this kind of stuff, they let me know that they were there. And then like when I'd watch videos, they would kind of direct me to which videos to see, you know. So I would like be scanning around and I'd pick one, and I realized that they were actually inside me. That's when I made I understood what was going on, and I turned to them and I said, I invite you into my house 24/7. My house is your house, you know. And the reason why I was doing it was out of respect. I recognize that you can come and go in visible space, and I want you to know you're welcome here. You know, you're welcome to come in my house. And the second thing I did, and this is what you have to do with no fear, right? The second thing I did is I said, you're welcome to come into my body, look out my eyes, heal me, know me, whatever you want to do. You can come in and out of my body. As long as you're respectful with me, it's all right. You want to see out my eyes, hear out my ears, you want to, you know, participate with whatever I'm doing, you can come and be with me. Now this is kind of like, most people get freaked out. Oh, that means you're going to be possessed by Sasquatch. No, I'm going to come and visit you, teach you, or love you, or poke you, or awaken something inside of you. So that's what I did. You know what I mean? And I have never been without Sasquatch. We were talking here just a little while ago, and I was getting this whole rush that they were here, sitting there, listening to what we were saying. I don't know if you feel it, but that's definitely what I feel like. They're sitting right here listening to what we're saying.
Feel sometimes after I've done podcasts, I'll have an encounter right afterwards, and I'll feel like that's them acknowledging that I did okay. You know what I mean? So you know, that's saying thank you. That honored us. And
I know exactly what you mean. You know.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Well, kind of like after you talked to me, the snake stick appeared in your yard.
Exactly.
You know. And I know a lot of people, they get rewards after they do a podcast. I think Sam just got a good one. And so maybe I'll get one after
this. He got a download of information about what they were doing for him. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. You know, since we've been going a lot on this about the psychic and the woo, which is great because a lot of podcasts, they're too afraid to share about that. I had a really cool psychic experience one time with them, and it makes me think they are attracted to psychics. Because you know how you asked that at the beginning. Well, remember I told you I had a friend that got stuck here at the camp out. Her name is Anita. She lives in Florida. She'll be at the Bigfoot conference too. She'll be the head cook for us all. And I've had lots of encounters with her. And when she was stuck there one night, you know, she was telling me how she was really open to things and believed in the psychic and all. And then that's when I started telling her how my father was a NASA engineer and had taught me how to move objects, and, you know, that we could move energy and mind over matter and all. So I started playing with the fire, and I started going around it in circles, trying to build up the energy of it. And my husband had a fire stick he kept using to poke in the fire, and to, you know, keep it going, moving around. And I said, why don't you see if you can get the fire to stay lit on top of the stick? So every time he got the fire on it, it would go out right away. And he kept trying and trying. So finally he handed it to me to do it. And I held it up in the air, like to the moon. And then I held it down, and I just had my arms straight out with the fire blazing on the end of the stick. And I was trying to give it lots of energy and use my psychic to keep it going. Well, it stayed, and there was a fire on the end of the stick. So I started twirling it, and it was a big stick. It was actually taller than me. And I started twirling it in a figure 8, and the flame just got huge on the end. And, you know, it was like this great big fire show. And I was turning it in circles, you know, turning the stick and all kinds of stuff with it and doing figure 8s. And the flame was just getting bigger and bigger the more energy I put into it. And it was going whoosh, whoosh. And then finally I got tired where I couldn't do it anymore. And I remember Anita was sitting there go, wow, that's cool. And I guess the Bigfoot saw it or something. And, you know, I got tired and I handed it to my husband, and I had connected to the fire then, you know, like we can connect to things because it worked with me and I felt so connected to it. And he asked Anita if she wanted the fire to be put out, and because it was about time for us to go, and she was time for her to go to bed, and she was like, sure. But he didn't ask me, and I felt connected to the fire then, and I didn't want it to go out. And he was trying to put it out and stomp it out with the stick. And I went and started staring at some of the coals where the flames had gone, and flames shot up. And I didn't want the fire to leave. And so he goes over there and tries to put them out. And I turned my head to the other end of the corner of the thing and started staring at the coals and imagined flames shooting up, and flames shot up. So he went over there to the other corner to try to put them out. You know, he just got the flames out over there. So then I tried to get the flames shoot out in the other corner again, and the flames shot up. And I kept doing this back and forth. And finally, and I wasn't saying anything to anybody. It was just my emotions. And that's where a lot of our psychic can work the strongest from. I didn't want the fire to go out because I felt attached to it after that. And so finally he said, I can't get this fire to go out. Well, he couldn't get it to go out because of me. You know. So then I said, okay, now I feel bad. And Anita goes, why? And she was watching me though, turn my head, you know, each time and look at the coals and try to raise the fire. And I know she knew what I was doing. And so finally I closed my eyes and I imagined the fire going dark and black. And I said, I'm sorry, fire, but you've got to die out. And I looked at it one more time and closed my eyes again and imagined it completely black. And then I opened my eyes and it was all gone and all the coals went black. And as soon as that happened, all of a sudden my heart starts racing. As soon as the fire went out and everything was completely dark. And I look straight ahead and I hear boom, boom, boom. And I hear this really loud bipedal walking coming right at us. It was at least 3 very large Bigfoot, because, you know, I had them running around in my yard all the time. So I got where I could, you know, hear the juveniles and hear the big ones and tell the difference by the sound of their footsteps. And I could tell these were 3 really large ones coming at us. And Anita looks at me and I'm watching the sound with my head to where they're walking, you know, and because she had heard them too. She was like, are you hearing that? You know, so she jumps up in the middle of where the fire was. And then my husband, you know, was hearing them come up to us because they're starting to circle us. And there's more coming down the trail at us, and they're starting to go in a circle around us. And he jumps up and hops in the middle. It can be terrifying when the Bigfoot come in and they're really loud and all. So I jumped up in the middle between the both of them, and I put my arms around their waist, you know, to comfort everybody. It was one of those times where I wasn't feeling fear. And then Anita had had told them telepathically that they could have any food left over. She cooked us a good chicken dinner that night. I don't think there was anything left over, but we saw one go over to the stove and pick up the aluminum foil. And it was neat because it's not like an animal pushed it away or something. You could see it, the aluminum foil. We just saw like a dark shadow go in there, and the aluminum foil just got picked up on one end, like it was being peeked under, and then it got slowly put back down. You know, it was dark, so that's all we could see. And then we saw the dark image go over more to the right. And then they were just still for a while, and we all sat back down and calmed back down. You know, but I think they were attracted absolutely to the psychic fire show.
Do you think that they had anything to do like with boosting up your energy or anything like that?
One of my friends had said that, because afterwards I didn't realize I could do that. I had never played with fire before, and so I was like, "How did that happen?" You know, sometimes I freak myself out. You know, and you know, one of my friends, Jonathan, he said, you know, maybe the Bigfoot helped with that and did that some too, and they could have, absolutely.
Oh, did you say that this was at the last convention camp out?
No, it was at my first camp out I went at with my Bigfoot family.
Okay, sweet. Well, I think we ought to put in a little bit of a mention here on this conference that you're going to be a speaker at, and
Yeah.
let me see if I can't bring up an image here. Oop, did I do that right? No, this one, that one. Yeah.
There it is. Yes,
There it is.
this is where the Bigfoot conference will be at Deer Lick Park. We actually put down our deposit this last week, so it is reserved for us. We go by the
October 4, 5, and 6, 2019.
Yes, thank you. October 4th, 5th, and 6th, this fall in Douglasville, Georgia. And I have hotel information, camping information, if anybody needs to know, you know, where we can stay at. Tom and Arla.
I will see camping information pretty soon. I'll talk about that afterwards. But there is camping and there's hotels and things like that.
Right. There's a place called Sweetwater Park right near here that's absolutely gorgeous. And it's actually, if you look online, it's had tons of Bigfoot sightings at it. But they have camping and yurts there, and that's 5 minutes from the conference center. One night we're trying to get a fire to reserve too and have Sam speak at it. And then, you know, Bob Gimlin is going to be there, of course, and I think everybody knows.
I'm going to get to this. I want to show this the structure. This what is this, like a community center or?
Yes. That's the building at Deer Lick Park that we will be having the conference in, I believe.
Yes, it looks really nice, and you're going to have like a big gymnasium style. You know, this is like a recreation kind of a thing or something.
Yes, we're going to have
community hall or something.
The speaking will be inside the gym, but we will also have a vending room for anybody who wants to come sell anything. They can come sell it in the vending room. Get hold of Tom or Arla or one of us so that I can give you a vending form to fill out. But you know, like if you've got some Bigfoot items you want to sell or just anything, and probably Bob Gillen will have his signed T-shirts there, and Arla will have her pouches, which I actually have one on. I've bought a shaman pouch from Arla before, and she makes them with Bigfoot on them and everything. And we'll have Tom and Keith's and Arla's books there for sale. And we're going to be serving food, so we've also got a kitchen rented, a full kitchen.
So you're going to cook. They're going to cook. It's like, you know, you pay them $8 or something. You have a big dinner.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're charging for the food or anything yet. I don't think we got into that much detail. We're planning what we want for a dinner and a lunch. Yes, and then Anita, that I just talked about, that I had the encounters with, she's going to be vending some muffins and coffee and fruit and all for breakfast.
Wow. Well, then okay, that's that. Then let's get right into the meat and potatoes, and that is, well, where did I go here? That is who's going to speak. Let me put that picture up. That picture up there. There we go.
Yes, Arla, right at the top. She's somebody I learned a lot from. Her and Tom Cantrell, both that are speakers there. Arla's had him in her life. She had her first sighting when she was 6 years old. She's written a lot of books, and so has Tom.
I have her on my wish list to do a talk.
That would be a really good one. I would totally suggest her and Tom. I've learned a lot from them. At first I didn't know anybody, so I was learning everything from the Bigfoot. But I would say next to the Bigfoot, I learned the most from them.
Well, that's Arla up here.
Yeah. Yep. That's Arla at the top. Tom Cantrell's over on the right. Bob Gimlin is below. The Bill and Amy Lancaster Bilko Productions. And Bilko Productions does, paranormal videos and films. And there's Keith Bearden over there by Arla. He's wrote a book of some Bigfoot encounters in this area. David Baraka is to the left below him. He helps run the Bigfoot Museum here in Georgia. And he's going to have some really interesting things. He runs it with his wife, Melinda. I'm really looking forward to hearing him speak. And then that's me below David. Ginger Lockwood. Now, I don't know all of these speakers, just as I'm sure they all don't know me. I've heard a lot about Alex Midnight Walker. So I know he used to have a show that Arla and Tom
like a radio show or something, right?
Yeah. So I've heard some of his shows, and they're just, everybody's like disappointed they're not being showed anymore. So he had some really good shows. Leanne Carnegie, really looking forward to meeting her. She has incredible finds. She actually has her own Bigfoot page that she runs called Bigfoot Without Borders. And I've been following her off and on for the last year, interested in her stuff. I don't know Richard Stewart or Michael Cook yet, or Dr. Shane, but I am so looking forward to learning about them more and meeting them. Tom Cantrell knows a lot about all the speakers here.
And Tom Cantrell, he's sort of like a little, what do you call it, like a little legend in his own time, isn't it?
Yeah. He's written a lot of Bigfoot books, and in fact, he's written them on the meanings of structures and glyphs, which a lot of people wonder about. He's worked with Brian Bland on that a lot.
Yeah, Brian's my buddy.
Yeah, he's in the process, I believe, of writing another book. In fact, one of the encounters I told you is going to be in his book.
Oh yeah.
But so I would, want to know anything more about the conference, Tom Cantrell would be the man to ask, definitely.
Right. And Bob Gimlin, which is he's all sort of like one of the grandfathers of the modern.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
He's the one who filmed, Patty with Roger Patterson.
Right.
Bigfoot video ever made, and it was probably the clearest one too.
I think so.
Yeah, he's famous, and who hasn't seen the Patty film, the Patty video?
So, did you say that there's the Bilko Productions with Bill and Amy Lancaster? Are they going to be doing the filming for that, or do you have somebody?
I don't know. I just know that they do Bigfoot filming. I don't. I actually haven't met Bill and Amy myself yet, so I don't know a whole bunch about them yet. If you go to the www.ghostofrubyridge/SAS site, it will describe more about each speaker and what they are doing. I believe that other sheet of paper you have with the Sasquatch on the front shows that website. You can buy tickets.
Let's put that one up.
Yeah, we need that one up. And there was a drawing by Sibylla. Yes, yeah. Sibylla actually drew that Bigfoot. She's a really good Bigfoot artist.
So here it is down here, www.ghostofrubyridge.com/SAS.
Go there and buy tickets. And also, that's where you can read about more information about the speakers. What I really like is this isn't a Bigfoot conference with speakers who've just had 1 or 2 encounters. These are people that really, really know Bigfoot, and I've had lots of encounters. I always tell people, if you haven't seen the woo yet, you haven't had enough encounters. These people have had a lot of encounters, but this is where you can buy tickets right there at that address. And if you don't want to buy a ticket, if you can't buy a ticket and you can't come, but you want to still help, there's also a place for donations. The donations go towards the conference to make it a better conference. We aren't making money off this at all. So, the more money we can put into the conference, the better conference for
And
everyone.
this is like probably what it is, 30, 40 minutes south, almost directly south of Atlanta, right?
West, southwest. It's directly west. It's
on the west side of Savannah, but it's south of Savannah.
Oh, Savannah. I'm sorry. I thought
not
you said
Savannah. I'm sorry. I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah. This is real close to the Atlanta airport. So that is the airport that you would want to choose if you were going to fly in. It's probably only 30 minutes to the airport from there.
Right.
Deerlick
Park, 2105 Mac Road. You can look it up on the Google.
Yes. And it's real close to Interstate 20, which goes over to the airport too. So really it's easy to get to.
So on October 4th is on a Friday, right? So that's going to be like an evening. Is it going to be a talk there? Or is it going to be like a meet and greet kind of a thing?
Well, we're going to have, hour-long speakers, one after another. And then they are going to have some question and answer things. And we're going to have door greeters. And then Saturday night, we're going to have a fire when hopefully we can get Sam to speak at that and have a big fire in the woods where we tell Bigfoot stories. So people are gonna be pulling up presentations on the, screen and the computer, and sharing their Bigfoot.
Oh, listen. Speaking of Bigfoot, you gave me this really great photo of a Bigfoot. Let me put that up. All right. Or maybe I don't know if you gave it to me or not, but it's just a fantastic footprint, and I wonder if you could tell me about that. You can see it.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, that was, I was actually in Kentucky at Land Between the Lakes, and I was looking for little dirt roads that nobody would go down. And I came across this area with water, and the red clay there had made these prints in it. There was actually a whole line of them, and it looked like they were hunting for deer because there were deer prints all around it too. It looked like maybe one was hunting for a deer.
How big was this compared to, relatively speaking? I know you didn't put out a measurement or anything, but
yeah, that was about 11 inches.
Okay, so it was like a full-grown, medium size.
That was about 11 inches, and
that's a better-looking footprint than almost all the other ones I've ever seen. If that had been cast, it would have been fantastic.
Yeah, we actually didn't cast it, and I was like, oh. Yeah. I had never cast at the time.
You're an experiencer. You don't go walking around with casting stuff in your backpack.
We didn't have it then. I actually have learned to cast since Jay Palmer, that lives in this area, went with me the first time to cast and helped me cast. He had never cast either, so we learned together. He's a neat guy to talk to. He's actually been healed by the Bigfoot before. And
you sent me a couple of stick structures. Are those from around your yard?
No, those are ones in one of my areas. I have about 6 research areas around me.
Oh, you're not playing around.
No.
Let me put this one up. It's a nice one. It's kind of clear. Yeah. Put it out here.
Okay, yeah, that's one of my newer research areas, actually. That's got some incredible structures.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, you got this going horizontal. It's like what do they call them? An asterisk almost, but it's got all this other stuff going on too.
I did the forensics on that, and that one's really cool because there's a branch that actually wraps around one of those trees, which shows that there's no way possible it could be tree fall because it's coiled around one of them. So
Yeah.
that's why it's kind of important to do the forensics on it sometimes, because we can totally rule out tree fall, which I was able to do on this.
That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I don't want to put up a bunch of pictures because, but that's pretty amazing. To me, like I was listening to this guy named Grant Cameron, and he talks about how the ETs have affected people, and you know, like we get all of our best music from downloads. And back in the '70s, almost all the great musicians, they've all been on craft before. Who knew? They all had these songs about flying saucers and stuff. But and then he was talking about how the different things that the star people did to get attention. So like they used to fly around and they would drop off this angel hair, and then they would fly around and drop off little pieces of metal, molten metal, and everybody was all about that. Or they'd land and make a footprint on the land, right? But they don't do that anymore, right? Well, here's what I think the Sasquatch are doing, is that what the ET people did is they started making these crop circles, and the whole point of the crop circles is so you go wow, and then you think about it, then you think about it, then you think about it, and you go wonder about how they do that, what you know. So to me, that's what these things are. These are the same thing to get our attention, make us wonder, make it a big deal, make people go out and search for them. They go, wow, what is this? How do they do this? And what's going on here? You see? And little do we know, we're getting saturated by the Sasquatch energy, saturated by the field. We're getting like hooked in, you know what I mean? And so,
you know, I use my psychic stuff to help me find them too. When I enter the woods, I ask the Bigfoot to help me find them and ask them to help me, you know, sense them out.
well, it's 5:55.
Maybe we had enough. That's another hour.
We should wind down, but I want to make sure that you have said everything and felt everything that you wished, so that you're not going to go, oh, if I only said that.
I've had more encounters and sightings than I can remember. So I just kind of go with the flow and share what seems to fit the show, you know?
Well, I'm so glad. I've actually been thinking about, for about 2 or 3 weeks before we even I became friends on Facebook, I was thinking about maybe doing a talk with you, because I just see how valuable your experiences and your viewpoint is. Because this is the direction we're going. We're not going to the wood ape who you know, wants to rape your children and eat your babies. That's not the direction we're going. We're going towards enlightenment.
It is starting to go out. People are getting more spiritual and more open. Yes.
That's the direction we're going. And to move in that direction, we have to saturate a little bit of people, at least that they can hear. There's something else going on. It's bigger, it's more loving, it's more conscious, it changes you for the better. You need to hear those kind of things, because then we can receive. If you don't have a little something in there to receive it, you won't, you know? You'll always be like,
open to it. Yeah. Huh? You have to be open to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're planting seeds, banging the drum, shaking the water.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we didn't get to, like I wanted to say, has the Sasquatch opened you up to talking to trees, animals coming and visiting you, you know, the birds coming in and like giving you messages and looking at you, and you know, all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've even wondered sometimes if birds were Sasquatch shape-shifted, you know. One time I got hit on the back with hit on my back by a Sasquatch, and it knocked my wind out.
Whoa, that's big. I didn't actually ask if you'd ever touched one, because they don't.
You're helping me remember things. And my husband and I were walking in the backyard looking for the Bigfoot. because we knew they were in the yard. And so they always play hide and seek from us. But so all of a sudden I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I get a slap really hard on the back of my back, so hard that it knocks my wind out. It didn't really hurt, but it just knocked my wind out. And so I said, honey, was that you who slapped me on the back? And he said, no, it couldn't be me. I'm way over here. And then I looked where saw him. He was in front of me. He wasn't even near me. And so I figured, that must be a Bigfoot. And right after I said that, we both turned around, and all of a sudden there was a possum, but it was albino with red eyes staring right at. And then it just disappeared. He always asks me if I tell people that part about the albino possum, and I always forget. But it because it just appeared all of a sudden. It was staring right at me, and it was pure white with red eyes, and then it just disappeared.
That definitely goes into the woo column. That's wild stuff. Because if you get knocked to your knees, you get your wind knocked out of you, and then there's nothing there except an albino red-eyed possum.
I had a witness too. He always asks me, do you remember to tell people that part? Usually I don't, because I thought nobody will believe me for one thing.
Well, I went to my first convention in Georgia with Dr. John and Matt, and I was staying in this hotel, and it was a motel. It was a Regal motel, which is like the world's cheapest motel, which is good for me. And so at the end of this, I think it was Saturday night. Was it? Yeah, it was Friday, Saturday. It was Saturday, Friday. Yeah, I stayed Saturday night, and I was going to leave on Sunday after the last part of the program. So it was Saturday night. It was my last night there, and so then I went. I was like just hanging out, and I had pizza. Right? So this was like the hotels. This is up in the mountains, so the hotel was like right on a bluff, and then there's the hotel. So I was looking out on the side of my hotel, and I saw there was a little trail that went up the bluff. There's trees and everything, like straight up. So I thought, well, why don't I see what's going on in that little trail? Because obviously it was like a footpath from somebody's house or something. So I walked up there, and I immediately saw a tree structure. So I thought, holy crap! Right here, 20 feet behind the hotel is tree structures.
Right here.
So then I went back down and got my camera, right? Because I had done some filming. That's where I did a filming of Robin and Pat McCoy. And anyway, McCrae. So I go back up there with my camera, right? And I'm taking a picture. And the thing is it was going way up, went way up in the. So I had to like watch where I was walking. So I went up there, and then I got about halfway up so I could take this pictures of the structure from left and right, kind of, and then I went a couple more steps up to take it from the top side looking down, and then there was another structure where there was this tree that was woven into the top of another tree, that it was hanging. So the whole tree was just hanging.
Oh, hanging, yeah, up in the air. Yeah. I got one.
There was about 3 or 4 feet up off the ground. I'm going, wow, that's amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I turned around, and after I finished filming that, I turned around and I started walking back down the path. And the path was only literally this wide, right? Mm-hmm. And as I walked back down the path, there was a mole. They left me a mole. So I had to watch the path because it was so steep going up. Take the photos, turn around, and come back down, and there's a mole there. And it was a mole.
A little live mole or dead mole?
It was just a little dead mole, and it was soft. There was no bugs on it. You know what I mean? And so that means they had to be standing behind me at that point, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing, remember what I told you about the snake? How when I was thinking about the snake? Well, when I was in Florida, they don't have moles because the ground's too hard or whatever. But in Georgia, they have moles everywhere. Everybody's got moles. And when I first moved to Georgia, it's like, oh, look, there's a mole in our yard. Another, I could see the little trails and stuff, right? So to me, they're saying, we know that you're looking at the moles in your yard, right? And then
Yeah,
when I,
right.
right,
Because they're telepathic.
huh? Yeah,
Because
because I was impressed by the moles. And then I had
Mhm.
pizza for dinner up there, right? So that was like one of the last things I threw out was the little box of pizza at the Regal thing, right? Regal Motel. But then I come home, it's a long story. It was a hilarious story in the middle of it, but I won't get into that. About where they got me lost in the mountains, really lost in the mountains for 2 hours, driving around in the mountains, completely lost on dirt roads.
Mm-hmm.
That was hilarious.
That's happened
Anyway,
to me too.
then I got back to Savannah, and when I pulled into the yard, I got out and I stretched because it was a long drive, and I went out to go walked around my fence to go look at the yard, and there was a pizza box there.
Mm-hmm.
So they're letting me know that here's the pizza box right here. Here's the pizza box, right? An old
Uh-huh.
ratty pizza box that I don't know where they found this thing, but they found a pizza box just to let me know. First of all, the mole was to let me know that my Sasquatch from here let them know up there, or my Sasquatch from here went up there, and
Mm-hmm.
then when I was down here, the Sasquatch down here in Savannah let me know that they knew I had pizza for dinner.
Oh, absolutely. It was kind of like the peanut that appeared in Washington. You know
Exactly.
what I
It
mean?
was exactly
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
it was personal to me. It was only me. Nobody else would never understand that.
right. If I had said something about the peanut, and if I wasn't with best friends that knew about the Bigfoot peanut, nobody would have known the whole peanut thing. You know.
Yeah. I mean, and they can do that. I mean, and mine was minor compared to yours. To be
Oh, no,
driving, what
they're
is
all
it, from Atlanta to Washington? It's like 6,000 miles, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
it's not like it's not like down the street. It's like
I
thousands,
think it was around.
5,000.
I had to get brand new tires afterwards. And because yeah, Jonathan drove my car, with for me because I didn't want to have to drive from Georgia to Washington and back, and I had to get new tires and an oil change. Oh, but you know what? We went to after we camped at Barb Shoop's house, we all went to this forest, and Brian Bland and Susan Funkhauser met us there, you know.
Wow.
And yeah, I got to meet Brian and Susan, and Johnson had told me that we were by Mount Hood, and he said, that's famous for UFOs. I was like, no way, I want to see a UFO. And so Susan hopped in my car because I was going to go alone if I had to. It was like after midnight. And I wanted to go park in front of Mount Hood and watch for UFOs. So Susan and I were driving around, and we found a place, and we parked in front of Mount Hood. And maybe we sat there approximately 20 minutes, and we were watching the mountain, and we didn't see anything. So I start to drive off, and all of a sudden we both spotted a UFO. And I am not joking. We go to look for a UFO, and we find one. It was like crazy. And so we stood there and we watched it. We both tried to telepathically communicate with it. And, and finally it went away, and we went back, and we come back and we're like, we saw a UFO.
Well, that's a real connection between the Sasquatch people and the UFO people. I mean, in that big survey they did, they broke it down to how many people saw different kind of people in the craft, and the number one was the invisible people, was the light beings, like they either a shape of a light or an orb. Number two was human-looking type. So the most people saw human-looking type or the orb, and then they went on down the list of like. And it was like a percentage because all these people who've been on the craft, they were there many times, so they saw different kind of beings.
Right.
Then it was the little ET grays, and then it was the mantid, the lizard people, and then it's like whatever was the fifth or sixth one was the Sasquatch people. 37% of the people saw Sasquatch people on the craft that they were on.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to dream about the aliens all the time as a kid, like I had told you in the preview little thing we did. And I remember I used to see a bunch of different ones. you know, and it was every night I would, I remember seeing the space crash and the aliens getting out. And so I had thought they were my friends and that they were interacting with me when I slept. And, you know, I just completely forgot about that until the Bigfoot came back into my life. It's like they were reminding me, okay, Ginger, you've had a connection, you know, and they were awakening me. Like I said, helping me find myself again.
Well, I think that's a good place to end. The best place to end is that, you know, if you have Sasquatch in your heart, that's the best place for them to be, you know,
Yeah.
and not to worry, not to be afraid, because it's a good
Right,
thing.
right, right. Well, thank you so much for interviewing me, and I am honored that you asked, and I very, very much enjoyed it.
It was a real gift to me. So thank you, and goodbye. And
Thank
I'm
you.
going to see you at that. I'm going to
My
see you
friend.
at the convention. Yeah.
Yes, I'll see you there. Awesome. It'll be so great to see you there, Michael.
All
Awesome.
right. Well, I mean, I
Thank
want to go to the camp out and I want to hang out with all. I want to be with the people who the Sasquatch come to them. That's the people I want to be with. I don't want to be the people. Yeah, I went to 27 different locations and we heard a knock. Yeah. No, I want the people that are living and sitting on their back porch and the Sasquatch come to them. Those are the people I want to go listen to.
Can't wait to have you with me. Bye.